A madhhab is a school of thought within fiqh. In the first 150 years of Islam, there were numerous madhahib, most of which have become extinct or merged with other schools. The Amman Message, which was endorsed in 2005 by prominent Islamic scholars around the world, recognized 4 Sunni schools, 2 Shia schools, the Ibadi school and a Zahiri school. Development. It has been asserted that madhahib were consolidated in the 9th and 10th centuries as a means of excluding dogmatic theologians, government officials and non-Sunni sects from religious discourse. Historians have differed regarding the times at which the various schools emerged. One interpretation is that Sunni Islam was initially split into 4 groups: the Hanafites, Malikites, Shafi'ites and Zahirites. Later, the Hanbalites and Jurist developed 2 more schools, then various dynasties affected the eventual exclusion of the Jurist. Eventually, the Zahirites were also excluded when the Mamluk Sultanate established a total of 4 independent judicial positions, thus solidifying the Maliki, Hanafi, Shafi'i and Hanbali schools. The Ottoman Empire later reaffirmed the official status of these 4 schools as a reaction to Shiite Persia. Some are of the view that Sunni jurisprudence falls into 2 groups: Ahl al-Ra'i and Ahl al-Hadith. 10th century Shiite scholar Ibn al-Nadim named 8 groups: Maliki, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Zahiri, Imami Shiite, Ahl al-Hadith, Yariri and Kharijite. In the 12th century, Yariri and Zahiri schools were absorbed by the Shafi'i school. Ibn Khaldun defined only 3 Sunni madhahib: Hanafi, Zahiri, and one encompassing the Shafi'i, Maliki and Hanbali schools as existing initially, noting that by the 14th century historian the Zahiri school had become extinct, only for it to be revived again in parts of the Muslim world by the mid-20th century. Historically, the fiqh schools were often in violent conflict with one another, vying for favor with the ruling government in order to have the representatives appointed to legislative and especially judiciary positions. Geographer and historian al-Muqaddasi once satirically categorized competing madhahib with contrasting personal qualities. Hanafites, highly conscious of being hired for official positions, appear deft, well-informed, devout and prudent. Malikites, dull and obtuse, confined themselves to observance of prophetic tradition. Shafi'ites were shrewd, impatient, understanding and quick-tempered. Zahirites haughty, irritable, loquacious and well-to-do. Shiites, entrenched and intractable in old rancor, enjoyed riches and fame, and Hanbalites, anxious to practice what they preached, were charitable and inspiring. While such descriptions were almost assuredly humorous in nature, ancient differences were less to do with actual doctrinal opinions than with maneuvering for adherence and influence. Ancient schools of law. It is usually assumed that no regional school developed in Egypt. Joseph Schacht states that the legal milieu of Fustat was a branch of the Medinan school of law. Regarding judicial practices, the Qadis of Fustat resorted to the procedure called al-Yamin mal-Shahid, that is, the ability of the judge to base his verdict on one single witness and the oath of the claimant, instead of 2 witnesses as was usually required. Such a procedure was quite common under the early Umayyads, but by the early Abbasid period it had disappeared in Iraq and it was now regarded as the Amal of Medina. Up until the end of the 8th century, the Qadis of Fustat were still using this Medinan procedure and differentiated themselves from Iraqi practices. From a doctrinal point of view, however, the legal affiliation of Egypt could be more complex. The principal Egyptian jurist in the second half of the 8th century is al-Layth b. The only writing of his that has survived is a letter he wrote to Malik b. Anas, which has been preserved by Yahya b. Ma'an and Al-Fasawi. In this letter he proclaims his theoretical affiliation to the Medhanan methodology and recognizes the value of the amal. Nevertheless, he distances himself from the Medhanan school by opposing a series of Medhanan legal views. He maintains that the common practice in other cities is also valuable, and thus implicitly defends the Egyptians' adherence to their own local tradition. Thus it is possible that, even though it did not develop into a formal school of law, a specific Egyptian legal milieu was distinct of the Medhanan school in the 8th century. List of schools. Generally, Sunnis have a single preferred madhhab from region to region, but also believe that ijtihad must be exercised by the contemporary scholars capable of doing so. Most rely on taqlid, or acceptance of religious rulings and epistemology from a higher religious authority in deferring meanings of analysis and derivation of legal practices instead of relying on subjective readings. Experts and scholars of fiqh follow the usul of their own native madhhab, but they also study the usul evidences and opinions of other madhahib. Sunni schools of jurisprudence are each named after the classical jurist who taught them. The four primary Sunni schools of the Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki and Hanbali rites. The Zahiri school remains in existence but outside of the mainstream, while the Yariri, Laythi, Ausari and Thori have become extinct. The extant schools share most of the rulings, but differ on the particular practices which they may accept as authentic and the varying weights they give to analogical reason and pure reason. The Hanafi school was founded by Abu Hanifa and Nu'man. It is followed by Muslims in the Levant, Central Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Western Lower Egypt, Iraq, Turkey, the Balkans and by most of Russia's Muslim community. There are movements within this school such as Barelvis and Deobandi, which are concentrated in South Asia. The Maliki school was founded by Malik ibn Anas. It is followed by Muslims in North Africa, West Africa, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, in parts of Saudi Arabia and in Upper Egypt. The Murabatun World Movement follows this school as well. In the past, it was also followed in parts of Europe under Islamic rule, particularly Islamic Spain and the Emirate of Sicily. The Shafi'i school was founded by Muhammad ibn Idris ash-Shafi'i. It is followed by Muslims in Saudi Arabia, Eastern Lower Egypt, Indonesia, Jordan, Palestine, the Philippines, Singapore, Somalia, Thailand, Yemen, Kurdistan, and the Mapilas of Kerala and Kingani Muslims of India. It is the official school followed by the governments of Brunei and Malaysia. The Hanbali school was founded by Ahmad ibn Hanbal. It is followed by Muslims in Qatar, most of Saudi Arabia and minority communities in Syria and Iraq. The majority of the Salafist movement claims to follow this school. The Zahiri school was founded by Dawood al-Zahiri. It is followed by minority communities in Morocco and Pakistan. In the past, it was also followed by the majority of Muslims in Mesopotamia, Portugal, the Balearic Islands, North Africa and parts of Spain. Shia 12-verse Jafari, associated with Jafar al-Sadiq. The time and space-bound rulings of early jurists are taken more seriously in this school, likely due to the more hierarchical structure of Shia Islam which is ruled by the Shiite imams. The Jafari school is also more flexible in that every jurist has considerable power to alter a decision according to his reasoning. The Jafari school uses the intellect instead of analogy when establishing Islamic laws, as opposed to common Sunni practice. Usulism forms the overwhelming majority within the 12-verse Shia denomination. They follow a marja-i taqlid on the subject of taqlid and fiqh. They are concentrated in Iran, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, India, Iraq, and Lebanon. Akbarism, similar to Usulis, however, reject ijtihad in favor of hadith. concentrated in Bahrain. Shaikhism, an Islamic religious movement founded by Sheikh Ahmad in the early 19th century Umayyad dynasty, Iran, now retaining the minority following in Iran and Iraq. It began from a combination of Sufi and Shia and Akbari doctrines. In the mid-19th century, many Shaykhs converted to the Babi and Baha'i religions, which regard Sheikh Ahmad highly. The Batiniya school consists of Alevis and Nasaris, who developed their own fiqh system and do not pursue the Jafari jurisprudence. Anatolian Kizilbashism and Alevism. In Turkey, Shia Muslim people belong to the Jafari jurisprudence Madhhab, which tracks back to the 6th Shia Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, are called as the Jafaris, who belong to 12er Shia. Although the Alevi Turks are considered a part of 12er Shia Islam, their belief is different from the Jafari jurisprudence in conviction. Alawism is followed by Alawites, who are also called Nasaris, Namiriya or Ansariya. The Madhhab was established by Ibn Nasr, and their Aqidah is developed by Al-Qasibi. They follow Silya Aqidah of Maimon ibn Abul Kashim Suleiman ibn Ahmad ibn at-Tabrani fiqh of the Alawis. Slightly over 1 million of them live in Syria and Lebanon. Alevism, sometimes categorized as part of 12er Shia Islam and sometimes as its own religious tradition, as it has markedly different philosophy, customs, and rituals. They have many tasawwufi characteristics and express belief in the Quran and the 12 Imams, but reject polygamy and accept religious traditions predating Islam, like Turkish shamanism. They are significant in east-central Turkey. They are sometimes considered a Sufi sect, and have an untraditional form of religious leadership that is not scholarship-oriented like other Sunni and Shia groups. They number around 24 million worldwide, of which 17 million are in Turkey, with the rest in the Balkans, Albania, Azerbaijan, Iran and Syria. Ismaili Muslims who adhere to the Shia Ismaili Fatimid fiqh follow the Dame al-Islam, a book on the rulings of Islam. It describes manners and etiquette, including ibadat, in the light of guidance provided by the Ismaili Imams. The book emphasizes what importance Islam has given to manners and etiquette along with the worship of God, citing the traditions of the first 4 Imams of the Shia Ismaili Fatimid school of thought. Tayyibi Mustaliya. The Mustali group of Ismaili Muslims differ from the Nazariya in that they believe that the successor Imam to the Fatimid Caliph, al-Mustanziya, was his younger son al-Mustali, who was made Caliph by the Fatimid regent Ali Fd al-Shahanshah. In contrast to the Nazaris, they accept the younger brother al-Mustali over Nazar as their Imam. The Boras are an offshoot of the Tabi, which itself was an offshoot of the Mustali. The Tabi, supporting another offshoot of the Mustali, the Hafizi branch, split with the Mustali Fatimid, who recognized Al-Amir as the last Imam. The split was due to the Tabi believing that Tayyib Abi al-Kashim was the next rightful Imam after Al-Amir. The Hafizi themselves, however, considered Al-Hafiz as the next rightful Imam after Al-Amir. The Boras believe that the 21st Imam, Tababi al-Kashim, went into seclusion and established the offices of the Dari al-Mutlaq, Mazun and Muqazir. The Boras are the only surviving branch of the Mustali and themselves have split into the Dawudi Bora, Sulaimani Bora, and Alavi Bora. Nazari, the largest branch of Ismaili, they are the only Shia group to have their absolute temporal leader in the rank of Imamati, which is currently invested in Aga Khan IV. The present living Imam is Maulana Shah Karim al-Hussaini, who was the 49th Imam. Nizari Ishmailis believe that the successor imam to the Fatimid Caliph Mahd al-Mustanzir Billah was his elder son al-Nizar, while Nizari belonged to the Imami jurisprudence or Jafariya madhhab, believed by Shias to be founded by Imam Jafar as-Sadiq. They adhere to some primacy of kalam in the interpretation of scripture, and believe in the temporal relativism of understanding, as opposed to fiqh, which adheres to an absolutism approach to revelation. Zaydi jurisprudence follows the teachings of Zayd ibn Ali. In terms of law, the Zaydi school is quite similar to the Hanafi school from Sunni Islam. This is likely due to the general trend of Sunni resemblance within Zaydi beliefs. After the passing of Muhammad, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, Imam Zayd ibn Ali, Imams Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik ibn Anas worked together in al-Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina along with over 70 other leading jurists and scholars. Jafar al-Sadiq and Zayd ibn Ali did not themselves write any books, but the views hadiths in the books written by Imams Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik ibn Anas. Therefore, the Zaydis to this day and originally the Fatimids used the Hanafi jurisprudence as do most Sunnis. Ibadi. The Ibadi school of Islam is named after Abdallah ibn Ibad, though he is not necessarily the main figure of the school in the eyes of its adherents. Ibadism is distinct from both Sunni and Shiite Islam not only in terms of its jurisprudence but also its core beliefs. Amman Message. In the modern era, Sadiq al-Mahdi, the former Prime Minister of Sudan, defined the recognized schools of Muslim jurisprudence as 8 specific schools. The Amman Message, a 3-point ruling issued by 200 Islamic scholars from over 50 countries, officially recognizes those 8 legal schools of thought: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, Fari, Zaydiyya, Ibadiyya, Zahiriyya. The Amman Message has been criticized by Sunni Barelvi groups. CIFI, a Sunni Barelvi group based in Hyderabad, regards the message as contrary to the teachings of Islam.